Persona 5 was a game that came out all the way back in the past of 2017. Wielding the sword of classical turn-based JRPG combat, it slid stylishly into our lives with a story that mainly centered around breaking free from society's expectations, all while learning that authority figures aren't really what they might be cracked up to be, all while stealing the hearts of everyone as the stylish Phantom Thieves. Persona 5 Strikers is a sequel to that game, in which it now uses action-based combat in a way that is surprisingly similar to that of any of those sort of Warriors games. I never saw that coming. Okay, let's give this some due diligence. I loved Persona 5. I still think about Persona 5. I frequently find myself staring off into the distance, longingly thinking about Yusuke Kitagawa. But we're not here to just think about Yusuke Kitagawa.
It's you. I feel as though I could melt. Yes.
No, Persona 5 Strikers. It's been half a year since you last killed God and left your friends to go and do whatever it is you do when you weren't hanging out with your friends. Which, as I assume, kind of not really exist, and be miserable. But it's the summer, so it's time to go out and enjoy some time with your friends on a big road trip across the country. Before you know it, you're back in Tokyo, getting the gang back together, and going back to the same old haunts you may know and love from the first game. Big Bang Burger, where you routinely gorged on burgers as the most efficient means of becoming more charming. Or the coffee shop, where your bedtimes were cruelly controlled by your dictator of a pet cat. Oh god, he's here! But more importantly, before you know it, you've been thrown back once more into the wacky world of the metaverse. And you'll never see us coming. Back to your old phantom thievery.
Not just me. You changed too.
Which is a great excuse to get the old gang back together. Ugh, this road trip idea was silly. But exploring our inner demons in deadly combat, all in the inevitable build-up to killing God? What else are friends for?
I don't want toys that don't do as they're told. Bye-bye.
Great! This means we get to see all the characters we met previously and whom we became good, close friends with. Our bonds of friendship and more, forever strong. And who knows, maybe we'll even get to see a certain special someone, am I right? It's just not the same. Yes, all of your friends, loved ones, and also I guess Mishima won't be making a showing in this game because before you know it, you're bungled into the back of a van on a road trip across country, all in the name of seeing a CEO of a company. And also with the plan to beat them senseless, probably when you do eventually see them. And I assume also kill God, knowing how these games go. But how are you meant to probably kill God before the end of the summer? Well, once you're back inside the metaverse, everything begins to kick back into the stylish slaughter you may know. Except, not as you know. Now, you'll be controlling one character, and upon engaging in combat, you'll be met with potentially dozens of enemies to whip into a frenzy with an ever-elaborate combo, and various skills. Pulling off a variety of moves and skills can help you handle these large gaggles of guys, and each character has their own unique playstyle, and you'll be bouncing around them, finding which set of people truly work for you. Or just play Yusuke, because why wouldn't you?
Such beauty! Go down!
The important thing is that despite everything being so quintessentially different to what you might know with Persona 5, a lot of the mechanics have translated across smoothly. There is still the difference between attacking with a human and using their Persona skills, and the different Persona skills being tied to the special attacks and combo length work well. Plus, you can still find the time to stop and just use a skill if you need to. This works doubly well with the protagonist, who still manages to use their wild card powers to collect an ever-changing and evolving number of persona. And this then changes some of their skills and combos as well. The maps and jails you'll be racing around are mostly just the streets of the various locales and cities that you'll be visiting on your road trip. Although each one doesn't have its own unique theme and setting that does slowly develop further and further the deeper you get into the dungeon, and they can be quite fun and interesting with their own little platforming bits and pieces, and ultimately they're just kind of fun to go around. There comes a point when the soundtrack really begins to kick in and the suave arrogance of all of your characters begin to bubble forward, and these wonderful, lovable themes that you've come to love just begin to shine.
We've made it! Let's rock, Joker!
The writing and characters continue to be wonderful. The inherent silliness that is present within this gang, knowing full well that one of their team is literally just a cartoon cat.
Try a cat! Wait, don't try a cat!
Plus, there's new additions to the team, such as the AI Sophia, who pulls off the classic comical robot tropes seamlessly.
Death. That is an acceptable outcome.
Dude, that's...
Oh god, we've created a murder machine! Plus, a bunch of the other characters you come across in the game are all fun and interesting in their own right.
What say we go get you tested for drugs now?
Sure, you may not have the charming confidants of the first game, but the other characters are more than fine, as well as the travelling from town to town really helps in adding to that variety of location.
Farewell, young ones!
It isn't all fun and merriment though. This is a Persona game after all. At some point you're going to have to do a deep dive into the psyche of various villains and characters. And let me tell you something, the villains are actually really kind of good. The general themes at play are the coupling of social media and the idea of popularity, with creatives and other notable figures yearning to make themselves heard in a world where every single person is heard at the same time, hoping that maybe they might finally have their breakthrough moment, and having to slowly learn that, well, hard work and just basic creativity doesn't necessarily mean you'll lead to glory. Oh god, and instead having to just steal the desires of those around them in order to try and make anything of themselves in the world. And I'll be honest, it gets very real quite quickly.
really tried. Just like everyone else. Read and read all through the night. Hours on end, like my life depended on it. And for what? No one ever acknowledged my effort. My effort? Not my work. Not even me.
Oh god, it's me! Minus the whole being in my underpants thing and also being a dragon. That's saved for later.
Acknowledge me, damn it. Acknowledge Ango Natsume's efforts for once. I just want someone to see that I really tried.
Yes, the game continues to hit quite hard, quite frequently, and it is somewhat surprising for a spin-off game such as this to still maintain the all-too-real social and psychological developments that the series is known for. A number of the villains are given the space to extrapolate and develop, and while they are often still bad, you can really get a sense as to where they're coming from and what may have led them to be a big BDSM rabbit. Where did it all go wrong? But what if you don't enjoy the cutscenes where everyone stands and expresses their distress? Well, fret not, as the combat dialogue abounds as your wills continue to clash, and sometimes it can be quite important to really get a good idea as to where a character is coming from. But also, don't expect to actually hear any of it. Oh, you have no idea how hard I've suffered over the years, how hard I've worked the long hours late into the night, day after day, of trying to get somewhere, to be something. Won't someone finally recognize me for what I... Do you mind? I'm trying to do a thing here. Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you over me beating you up.
Do not obstruct us. It's useless.
I do have some issues with Persona 5 Strikers, however, and the main one is that, well, it's a lot more action focused. Not that the combat is different and I don't like it because it's now no longer turn-based. No. I mean specifically that the game primarily focuses a lot more on the actual combat and the action stuff and going through dungeons. Because, and this is reflected in the fact that it takes place over a single summer period, which is like a couple of weeks. So you no longer have those confidants or those bonding systems, and you don't have that free time anymore of those nice, relaxing, calm bits to counter, quite notably, the action bits, to have this nice rotatory system going on. Instead, your days are very specifically structured and you can just pop in and out of a dungeon over and over and over again within a single day, and there is little consequence to that. This further means that, again, you don't really have any form of bond or confidant system, which means you never have those moments where you grow closer to your friends. Sure, there are a number of scenes where you spend time with your pals and you do wonderful activities together, and they are fun to behold.
Oh, nope, not a real cat at least. We were just practicing our cat sounds. Right, Ryuji?
Meow?
But you don't get that same experience of growing closer to people, learning more about them, because, well, you've essentially already done that in the previous game. But what you do have is this bond system, where you seemingly have a variety of scratch and sniff stickers that you can unlock to improve your skills and the like. Although you'll probably dump most of them into the utility bits and pieces because that just seems the most efficient, which means you're not really increasing your actual stats, or really anything that helps you in combat, which then just means that, well, some of the bosses are literally nightmares. The funny thing here is that these bosses are often the personification of the villain's, like, deep trauma, and therefore is actually a nightmare of sorts. But they are also just poorly designed. A lot of the time, combat can feel a little ineffective as you unleash a flurry of hack and slash blows, but instead do very little damage to anything, and it is a bit of a slog. These bosses in particular were quite terrible, as you'll routinely be told to attack after they do when they're vulnerable, only to find that the opening they present is not that big, and you will be smashed to bits quite quickly.
It leaves him wide open. Dodge the attack and hit him with everything you've got.
For the most part, you'll be able to use your superior human brain to just dodge and slash in time, in what is a long, tedious battle. However, your AI-controlled teammates will sadly perish the moment the enemy even looks in their direction with their weird single eye.
Hisaka! Here!
But after all is said and done, Persona 5 Strikers is still a really solid game. And that is partly down to the characters are so well realized and executed, and there are numerous instances, and setups for the characters to just bounce off one another that's just very fun and pleasant to watch. Because, I don't know, they just seem really well realized in this game and are just constantly a joy to watch. And that is also down to the various like bits and pieces they come across while on their road trip, and that road trip centric view of the entire game. This game has such a delightful focus on food and cuisine and discovering new types of food. It's one of the key things that happens when you travel. It's why you travel, is to try all the local foods, local delicacies, and that is so delightfully baked into the game that it's genuinely quite nice. And sure, your free time may not be how it used to be, in which, you know, you actually had some choice in the matter on what you can do. Where do you think you're going? It's board game time? Oh, you know, I was just about to go for a climb for my evening. You know, just spend some time doing a climb. This one's not even any good. The time you spend with your pals, however, is still incredibly heartwarming and just generally pleasant, and works as this wonderful break moment between just smashing hundreds of guys to bits in the dungeons, which is what you spend most of your time doing. Overall, I'm quite surprised to how much I'm enjoying Persona 5 Strikers. I had a lot of trepidation going in, thinking that, well, it's just going to be a really kind of shoehorned in sequel where they've completely changed how the game works to an entirely different kind of gameplay system, and there's just this thin veneer of paint of Persona 5 over the top to just try and loosely make it based around that game. However, while I can see that the combat might get a little bit repetitive, the story and like the Persona 5 bits and pieces continue to be incredibly strong and are genuinely really well done. Not to mention that, again, all the menus and the music and everything about this game is so incredibly stylish. It just totally slaps. Hello, and thank you for watching my video. It's about Persona 5 Strikers. Obviously, you've just watched it. If you have thoughts on Persona 5 Strikers, Persona, Yusuke Kitagawa, then let me know in the comments and I'll read them and hopefully not feel sad. Otherwise, you can check out some of my other videos. One here is about a fun little indie puzzle game called Murder by Numbers. It's really fun, and also so is the video. It's fun. Otherwise, down here, there's one about board games. It's about a board game called Dinosaur World, which is totally fine as a board game. It's fine. I like it more in... Or you can click on my face or to subscribe on my face. Thank you, and goodbye.